I'm Trish.
And I'm Brandi.
And you're listening to episode 4 of Connected Conversations.
This is your space where international teachers, school leaders, and parents like us get together for real talk, real tips, and real conversations that go way beyond the sparkly brochures of international education.
That's right. Today's episode is part of our Insider Voices series, where we share real stories from international educators, leaders, and parents.
And today we're so excited to introduce you to April, a director of TEFL Worldwide Prague, and an educator who has lived and taught in multiple countries all around the world, navigated very different school systems, and built a career that shows just how many directions teaching abroad can really take you.
Oh, Brandi and I have so many different educator stories that we want to bring you on in Connected Conversations. And April is a fantastic introduction to an educator who has lived in multiple countries across both Europe and Asia. I first met April in 2024 when we were teacher training together here in Prague, and her story and experience just energized me.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So April is originally from America, and she's been teaching abroad for a whopping 14 years across many countries in Asia and Europe. Now she's currently one of the directors at TEFL Worldwide Prague, as I said before. And as you know, Prague is where Trisha and I call our forever teaching home. And so we're happy to introduce you to another Prague friend.
So if you've ever wondered what it's really like to move country after country as a teacher and juggle different contracts or build a life on the go, April's story is going to give you a window into those realities and the surprises that might be along this path. So, are you ready? Let's get connected. Hi, April. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, can you tell our guests a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and maybe what your current job abroad is?
So my name is April, as you mentioned. Hello. Thank you so much for having me, ladies. I'm currently living in Prague in the Czech Republic. I am originally from the U.S., but my current job abroad, aside from teaching English, which I've been doing for many years, I'm also the co-director of TEFL Worldwide Prague, which is a teaching certification course for those who actually want to teach abroad. Yeah. And it's just a short 4-week course to get those certified to teach abroad anywhere in the world.
Right. And as I mentioned before, that's where I met you as one of your teacher trainers there. I've been working with TEFL Worldwide Prague, and that's what you took when you first came over to the country. So we know it well, recommend it highly. So definitely.
Love the connection. Yes.
Love this. Connected Global. That's what we're here for.
So how long have you been in the international teaching realm?
I have been, it's been about 14 years now. It was about 14 and a half years now. So quite some time, teenager. My life abroad as a teenager. Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Nice. And where have you been during that time? I know you've been in some different countries. So can you kind of walk us through where that started and where it's processed through?
So I started in Thailand, which was not my original plan, but I did start in Thailand. I took my teaching course in Thailand. I worked in Thailand for a little over a year. And then I went to Myanmar, which many people still know as Burma. And I was there for a short stint and then made it to Korea, to South Korea for a year, went back to Myanmar for another stint, then went to Vietnam, ended up there for 3 years, which I felt it was a lifetime long. And then, shocker, went back to Myanmar for a third stint, and then finally came here to the Czech Republic. And the goal was to stay for 1 year, but if anybody has ever been to Prague, you would see why I have been here in Prague for 8 years.
8 years.
So, yeah.
Okay. It just sucks people in. Once you come, you never leave again.
I know.
That can't be more true. I am a woman from the beach and I love seafood. So why not live in a landlocked country? That has winter most of the year. So exactly.
Of course. Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Those nice short winter days that are coming back for us here.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kept bringing you back to Myanmar? Because I mean, most people who are looking at international schools nowadays, I know you were in the TEFL world, but Myanmar is war right now, and there's civil conflict going on. So what was 3 times brought you back there?
So originally when I went, I was a little green when I first started traveling, safe to say. And when I went the first time, it was also a bit of civil unrest. And I didn't realize that at the time. So while my father who usually is up to date on things, was like, oh, that sounds really exciting. My mom was like, hun, do you know what's happening in Myanmar right now? And you think it's okay for her to go there? And I was like, going anyways. I actually was recommended for a summer camp there. And the summer camp is about 2.5 months. And so I went the first year and loved it. And it was in the capital city in not Yangon. Yeah, in Yangon. And then I went back again because I had that time off once again. And then I was in Mandalay. And then the very last time I was back in Yangon. So I kind of saw the country go through a lot of different
phases.
Situations. Yeah. Because I was first there in 2012. Yeah. So if you know anything about like the Myanmar history, it's when Aung San Suu Kyi first became elected. So I was there for her election, which is cool to be like a part of history. But since then, I've seen it change so much in those years that I've been going back. Yeah, I just like it because it's a short contract, and it's nice to see how countries do kind of develop throughout the years and through their timeline.
Interesting.
Very cool. Yeah. So your first place that you went to, you said was Thailand, though,
yes.
right? Yes. And so that was your very first job abroad. And how did it compare to what you expected before you had taken that airplane over there?
Pretty wild for someone who had only been out of the US once in her early 20s to go to Italy. So not culturally different than the US. Way better food, obviously. But so deciding, sure, I'll move to Thailand and live and teach there in this crazy culture. I did expect a bit of culture shock, which did happen. In the school system, I expected it weirdly to be like the US. And in some ways it was, but some ways it was very different just because the whole political scheme is different there. They have a monarch. So when the monarch is like, you know what, let's not have school today. Guess what? You don't have school that day. So, and you find out when you arrive to school, the king decided everybody gets a holiday. So things like that was very foreign to me. No pun intended. Yep. Yeah, I guess just I expected to be blown away because of the differences, and that expectation did come true. Yeah.
Were you in Bangkok for most of that?
I was not. Well, I am a city girl abroad now. I did not start off like that. I started off with, I want to live like the locals live. I want to experience as much as possible. Put me in, someplace outside of a big city. And I have experienced that in a few countries, guys. And while I enjoyed all of those experiences, first time being abroad, it is so nice to have the comfort of something from home. The closest comfort I had, besides my at the time partner who was with me, the only other comfort I had from home was a hamburger, an hour and a half away by bus. So yeah, I would say first time abroad, look for a place that might have something that's comforting for you because it will help with the homesickness. But being thrown into the raw aspect of what am I doing here? What is life like here? Really, kind of gets you into the gonna learn a lot fast and experience the culture. So
yeah, I mean, that was the same with me when we went to Korea, the family of 3, like my 1-year-old with me. And I had the school, we were in rural, like 2 hours south of Seoul. And there was nothing that looked familiar. And there was no international place to eat either. I know exactly what you mean by that bus right away or that train right away. So that is a really good piece of advice for people looking out there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And figuring out that public transport when you're in a rural area and nobody can really help you or, that's a whole new challenge.
Or even like when I came to Prague, like I had never used public transport back home in the States at all. So just like, Prague is such a connected city. I knew how to do the metro because you had showed me actually. And then like anything, I remember the first time getting on a bus and Trisha was like, it's okay. It shows the stops on the little TV screen. I'm like, I don't know. What if I don't get off at the right place? I was so nervous and scared.
It is terrifying. But once you master public transport in a foreign country, you're like, yes, this is easy. I can get around. Yeah.
And it's kind of the same everywhere. It's almost like driving. If you do drive another, the rules are generally the same everywhere. So once you're going to put your noggin on, you got it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
So What different types of schools have you worked in? You mentioned a summer camp contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like now I know you're a director in the TEFL school, but like what have been some of the different schools and curriculums?
So I have worked in government schools, like in Southeast Asia. I was working in government schools. I've worked in private language centers. I've worked in like tutoring after school type schools as well. I've also worked in elementary schools and high schools. And then here in Prague, and then of course the summer camps. And here in Prague, yes, while directing TEFL and doing the training, while I am teaching on the side, I do work with private students as well as a language center here in Prague.
Can I
So
ask
a little bit
you,
of everything.
what was your background before you moved? Like, are you an educator? Like, what did you do before?
I'm curious with this smile. What's that going to be here, April?
So I always laugh about this question because my mother is a teacher. Well, she's retired now, but my mother is a teacher. And I remember because she was in like daycare kind of stuff. And then she went to school for being a teacher. And I remember my older sister and I like helping my mom like make these games and laminate them while watching TV and thinking, I will never be a teacher. Like this is a lot of work. And I remember her once she became a teacher coming home and grading papers. And I was like, Mom does not have a life. She does, guys. She does. But I was always like, oh, she's grading papers while watching TV. Like she's always working. I never want to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
My younger sister is also now a teacher, or she was a teacher for a bit. And again, not going to be a teacher. I actually went to school very undecided. And towards the end of the college career, when you do have to kind of declare your major, I went into marketing with a minor in psychology. So I was more in the business realm of things just because it was realistic. And I did go and work in corporate America for a bit. And then I wanted to travel. And how can you travel? Teaching. And what do you know, guys? I like teaching.
Yeah, you're good at it. So. You're good at it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So that's why I laugh about that. It was never planned to be in education at all.
I love that, though, because I feel like many people might think that international education is not accessible to them because they're not a teacher or they don't have experience. But your story shows that it's absolutely an open door for anyone who's willing to, have those challenges and adaptability in an international, area.
And to add that in, because I've worked with you on the TEFL course before, we know that most of the people who come to us, it's very rare when one of the 14 or the 20 students have any teaching background, right? They're mostly from somewhere else or career change or something. Yeah. However, there are many people who end up staying, like starting in the TEFL world, but then liking it so much. There are a lot of online teaching courses that you can then take like 4 years in and you can become a teacher from a distance, and take the courses. So
what people don't realize is whatever your background is, you can bring it into the teaching world. Like mine was business marketing, and I have adult students who are in business and they talk to me about certain things within their company, and I know the lingo, or I can bring some of what I've studied or my experience as well. And so whatever your background is, you can still bring it into your classroom or into wherever you meet your students, even if it isn't specifically focused on teaching English. Bring your experience. And I think that just adds an extra layer of you as a teacher to your students.
And that probably only adds to the amount you can charge your hourly fee, right? Like your consultation, your expertise. So on that fee kind of area and contracts, like, have there been any surprises about contracts or workload along the way or different expectations across the different school types you've mentioned?
I think maybe not across the school types, but maybe more across the school cultures. For example, my time I spent in Korea, it was very much, I was also in a rural area, guys. I was not a city girl yet. I was in the mountains somewhere. And I felt that I really wasn't used to my potential. I was essentially given a book saying, here are the 2 pages you're going to teach. Here's the CD that your students are going to listen to. So I was just more like an interlocutor. Like, here we are, DJ push and play. Listen to these people speak English, and then I will check your answers. So I feel like in Korea at that time, I don't know if it's different now, but at that time, I feel like it was more so the presence of a native English speaker was more important than actually having the English teacher teach English. Whereas in the government schools in Thailand, they had curriculum prepared, but we got to adapt it to our teaching style and to our students, which of course was wonderful. That's where you can add in projects and activities and games. And then, of course, here in Prague, the workload is different because depending on your students, you create your own curriculum. So I work to the goals of my students, and all my students have different goals. Some of them do align, and I make sure to ask about that before I start teaching them to see how they fit in my schedule.
Yeah.
But because they have different needs and objectives, I do have to tailor my lessons to that, which can change my workload slightly.
Interesting. So thinking about like the different types of expectations or the things that were included in your contract, did you have any like happy, positive, pleasant surprises that you weren't expecting? Any perks that were included?
So while maybe it didn't sound so positive in Korea, I will say that contract did have the best perks, in my opinion. Most places I've lived, most places I've lived do take care of your visas for you. So that's something you really don't deal with, which is really nice when that's included. But in Korea, because I, again, was in the mountains, I had an apartment stipend. So essentially they paid for my housing, and it was a 2-bedroom apartment, which was wonderful. Just me. I had a spare room if anybody wanted to come visit. But
I didn't know you. I would have.
The room would have been set up for you, Trish. You would have been more than welcome. I would have given you a spare key. But the housing stipend was really nice because I didn't have to pay for housing, which meant I also didn't have to look for housing, which is also very nice in a foreign country. And in Korea, they have the 13th month paycheck. So every year you work, you get an extra month of pay. And at the time, again, I don't know if it's still like this because it's been a few years. For Americans working there, you had to pay into your retirement fund. So every paycheck you got, it took some money out for your retirement. Great, cool, whatever. But when you retire from Korea, when you leave the country, you get your retirement back. So if you're there for 3 years, that's 3 extra months of pay you get because you get that 13th month when you leave. So that'd be 3 months of pay and 3 years of retirement that you get when you leave. So that benefits when you're leaving a country and going someplace else, having that extra like little nest to go start in another country was really, really nice. I, of course, used it to travel. I'm not the best with money, but I used it to travel and loved it. But yeah, I think the benefits there were the best in terms of what I got.
Can I ask, it's probably a question for both of you, actually. Is this like a standard, or was at least a standard in Korea? Like no matter what job you get there, like you get that 13th month, or was it specific to the organization or school you were at?
Gosh, mine was now 19 years ago that I was there. And I do remember there was the perk of leaving because I was at a government school in a government program. And so I remember that there was a chunk of money at the end. I do remember that. And I seem to, now that April is like bringing this back to my memory, I knew I had my flights in and out.
The flights were included for Korea as well.
That's
Most places don't include flights.
Yeah. And I mean, it was lovely. I remember leaving with something about that where I could apply to get my retirement back. I think that's what it was like, but I did leave there with a good chunk. I was very happy. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And there are certain countries we're all 3 Americans, but I mean, there are certain countries that just definitely put working focus on healthcare and providing it for the citizens, like retirement. We want you to plan, I don't think I've spent mine wisely either, although I do have a little house. That's
good. That makes me feel better, Trish. Yeah.
We did cover that in a previous episode where we're definitely going to talk about that too, about how like building the savings, we don't have much to go back to in the States probably. So we've got to be better at that.
But it's different. Like I feel like in our home countries, we know the systems and we're taken care of in the system that we know. But then when you're abroad, I mean, for me personally, I feel like I'm just kind of like left in this deep water of like, how do I prepare for retirement? At home, they just take it out of my paycheck automatically, and so it is like an extra effort, an extra process to go through to make sure that you're preparing for that part of your life.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we want to make sure that we're giving people in different episodes, like that kind of forward planning, because we do think, like you, April, like this can be a long time lifer kind of thing, and I mean, there's so much joy and like things to see out there.
Yeah.
So we want to do
Very
it.
true. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So is there anything that, talking salary, you don't have to go too deep into it, but like about finances here, like has anything on paper, like looked really good maybe, but then like what the actual costs in that country were, like you just couldn't get ahead. And so maybe that you had to pivot to somewhere else. Have you had that experience?
I would say yes. In the Asian communities, I didn't really have that problem. You are paid quite well as a foreigner, as a native English speaker, I would say, in Asian communities. And one of the benefits of them paying you is because you are a native speaker. I would say probably, and again, I've lived in Prague for 8 years now, but yes, starting off in Prague was a bit more difficult because Prague is cheap, which is correct when you are on non-Czech money. But when you're getting paid locally, you start to look at the prices differently. And housing everywhere is pretty insane right now. So even in Prague, while it is cheap, once you're getting Czech wages, you see that it's not as cheap as you originally thought it was.
Sure.
And what I tell people when they're interested in Prague, that first year you're here is going to be tight, but not because, Prague is getting more expensive, which is true. It's, leveling out everywhere. It's also because you have these expenses. You have moving expenses. Anytime you move flats, sorry, that was my British English there.
Well,
anytime you move apartments, back home, you have these like random moving costs, just like paying for like little, things for your house that you need, like a little caddy for your shower, things like this. Those expenses that you don't think about, but you're not coming over from the US or from back home with a shower caddy, right? You're going to get that when you're there, trash cans, things like that. So you have these small home expenses. Also, you probably want to meet people. I'm assuming you want to meet people, and you tend to meet people by going out and going to events or to meetups. And they do unfortunately cost money. There are so many free things everywhere, even here in Prague, there's so many, and people don't always think to look at that. Mm-hmm. So they immediately think about going out to a place where you spend money.
Yep.
And so that's where these kind of first year expenses come into. And also, it's your first year in the country. You're probably not going to make the best wages or get the best teaching offers. But your second year, things do get a lot easier in terms of finances. So that's usually what I kind of tell people when they come to Prague.
That was something I had mentioned earlier that I've learned for me and my family. It's not until the third year that I'm putting anything really in the bank in any of my contracts. It just, so if you are going to be a hopper from place to place, you're going to get great experiences, but just expect to just like kind of meet the bare minimum of things, I would say.
My first few years, I was a hopper, and then I just wasn't.
Yeah. Because you found your city there, April.
I guess so. I guess that's what it is. I just had to hop until I found it. Yeah.
So, you've been international for such a long time. What are some other strategies? We're talking about finances, but we can branch out a little bit. Like, are there any other strategies that have helped you keep this lifestyle sustainable in this long period of time?
Mm-hmm.
I would first, speaking about finances, a little late in life, and I joke around with my parents about this, but I learned how to budget. And that's not something you were really taught in school, financial literacy. But I remember when I first started traveling, I just used my money that I had, not thinking about my daily life, when I wasn't traveling or something. And so I, as Trish knows, and Brandi, as I'm sure she has told you, I love to travel, hence why I'm in Prague. But I also am a festival girly. I do like to go to festivals and live music events. So those can get expensive. So I have a budget for it. And when I go to these festivals, or even when I'm traveling, I'm not thinking, is that going to affect my day-to-day money? I'm like, it's in my budget. I can do it. And it's less stress. And also it does encourage me to travel more because I'm like, I've got money in my travel budget. Why don't I go somewhere? And as we know, in Europe, we have a variety of low-cost airline options that we can pop around for a weekend to different places. So budgeting would definitely be the biggest lesson I've learned. And in that budget would be putting a little bit away for the future.
Yeah, I got to go to the Lumineers recently with April and Tassie. And then I know. She made me jealous the following week by going to Eurovision.
Wow.
She went off to Eurovision. But this one went to Taylor Swift recently in Germany. So like you guys are all good.
Perfect. Here. I got mine. I got my bracelets as well.
Oh, I love it. You're wearing, I'm not wearing mine, but that's just, I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, they're just part of my daily wear. They switch up every day. And who Trish was talking about, my coworker / good friend did make Showgirl bracelets. So this episode is now dated. Showgirls, this is before it came out. So
wow. Yeah. Love it.
Yes.
You're learning there's a lot of cool things to do abroad when you're out there, folks. You know,
yes,
ways to keep it connected for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So when you meet people just getting started in the international teaching world or first moving abroad or something, what is something that you wish they would know? For example, if I can just say like Miss Brandi.
I'll never forget this story.
She'll never forget. When she first arrived here, we as Americans tend to be a little loud when we're out.
Not us.
Sorry, we are. And we will stand in an area in Prague and we will loudly announce our presence, not realizing that the person is sitting this close to us. So sorry to everyone. I hope that doesn't make you turn the channel, but it's kind of true. It's something you need to know. The rest of the world is not quite as loud as us, I have hope.
But I will never forget when we were on the metro, just her and I'm telling her my story like this, and nobody else on the metro was talking. It's only me. And I remember her lightly touching my shoulder and being like, Brandi, you can be a little bit quieter. And I think, first of all, it takes a lot of bravery to say that to a friend.
It's hard.
But then I realized it was like a shocking moment where I was like, oh, I'm the only one talking. I can lower and it was like a real learning moment for me in my
And so that is something that in this vein, like I think that we come abroad and we'll check out like what are things you should do, what are faux pas when you're traveling about. We'll check out those videos. But what is something that you kind of, since we're hoping to reach a lot of people, what is something you hope that people know when they move abroad, maybe? Like
when you move abroad, don't expect it to be like home. People are not going to react to you like they do in your home country. And just because something is different for you and their culture doesn't mean it's weird. People have created a culture and what they do in their culture works for them. We have things in the US that work for us, like unlimited drink refills works for us. It doesn't work everywhere. And ice. Yes, exactly. It doesn't work everywhere. So kind of take everything with a grain of salt. If you're coming to any country in Europe, there's not going to be air conditioning. They don't really need it. Inside the buildings, it's usually cooler anyways. Like just be aware that don't judge when you first get there. Try and understand why is it not like this and be open to the changes. Yeah. So that's what I say.
Really love that. And I have to say, I just have to throw myself under the bus that when I first came to Prague, the unlimited the limited refills or the no tap water or like free tap water. Yeah. I mean, I was huffing and puffing for like months and months about that. And the longer I've been in this country and experienced other countries, I've realized that like, it's all a balance, right? Like, because, okay, I don't get my free water, but I get healthcare that is like a top notch I would rather have the healthcare than the free water every other day, you know? So, I mean, I think that there's benefits and there's, pros and cons to every country you go in, and just keeping that awareness is really,
and the more
really
reflective
smart.
you are about it, I think that the people who thrive and do the best out in our world are reflective and non-judgmental, like kind of like they take it in and, that's different.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Exactly.
I wonder why that is. Oh, that seems to make sense. I would have never thought of that. Completely right. Yeah.
So in this same vein, we shared our 10 myths abroad about living abroad, and going through each one and kind of debunking what they are. Did any of those resonate with you? Did you believe any of those myths before you moved abroad, or any big eye openers specifically?
There were I think honestly I resonated with each one of them, but I'm trying to pick out which one I resonated the most. Give me a recap of a few of them just to refresh my memory.
Okay, so there was like, you've already mentioned the one where the salary.
Salaries, I think that was a big one. Yeah,
these are going to be the same, like expected to be like your home country. That was one. And then let's see. I don't know.
Episodes ago now.
I know it's like episode 2, and we're on quite far.
I'm like seriously having a blank moment right now. You know, it's when you ask something and then you've got the whoosh.
Mm-hmm. I know when you asked me, I was like, no, that's why I was like, I'll throw it back to you because I also can't remember them right now. But I would probably say the finances were the most because people say, oh, you're going to make a lot of money in these countries, whereas you're making a lot of money for living in those countries. You're not making a lot of money compared to what you'd make back home. So I would say that one for sure would be the biggest one, like look incomparable to the cost of living, which is a big thing.
I am curious, what was your experience in terms of language? Because I do remember one of the myths was like, everyone speaks English.
Yes, that was the other one. Not everyone speaks English. And you do not need to know the language to teach in that country. That was a big one. And I still get this question. And just remember, you are there to teach English. It is helpful if you do know some of the local language. Study some phrases beforehand, like just kind of at least be familiar with like, hello, thank you. I like to learn how much, beautiful, and delicious. Those are my top ones.
Delicious. Mashida. Yeah. I know delicious.
Works for everything. Exactly. So if you do kind of pick up a little bit of the local language, you might hear it in the classroom and it helps you to understand what your students are trying to say. But it's in no way required because they actually prefer you not to teach the local language or to speak the local language in the classroom, or else the students are not going to learn by immersion. Instead, they're just going to wait for you to translate. So no, the knowing the local language isn't required, but it's respected. It's helpful. And honestly, you will get a completely different experience if you say a few things in the local language. The locals are just much more open and like, wow, you've tried to learn something in our language. And yeah, not everyone speaks English, even though it is so widely used. It is not a national language of the world. It is not declared that. So while people might know it from entertainment or they might hear it, they don't always know how to speak it, and be mindful of that. Use your body gestures.
Yeah. And also I think that those people who feel they are there to like save the rest of the world by teaching them English, that's also not our job. Okay. Like that.
I have students with differing opinions than mine. I know what those opinions are. My job is not to convince them. We can have open discussions depending on the students, depending how open I know they are and how long I have been teaching them. But for the most part, I am here to correct your English, expand your vocabulary, make sure you're fluent in the language and also accurate. But I am not there to convince you of my beliefs because my culture is different. My lifestyle might be different, and just my own childhood and my own personal experiences are different. So we can talk openly, but the focus is the student and making sure that they are speaking accurately.
I love that. And I don't touch politics with a 10-foot pole in my classes. Like I just never do. It doesn't end well.
It definitely does. Yeah. And especially if you are not on a one-on-one, if you have multiple students in your classrooms, all the students will have different opinions. And then we want the classroom to be a safe space. We don't want to cause conflict with us and the students or with the students between themselves.
Love that.
It's funny hearing you guys talk about this because like my students are always kids. Like I really don't teach adults. I have taught adults. I have taught high schoolers, but like I really stay in like the primary and preschool world. And so like hearing what you're saying, like it's important to learn.
There?
I don't think so. But I think it's important what you're saying about like just learning a few keywords in the language. I will never forget one of my first teaching jobs abroad. I had a small group of kids and I had this little boy. I have his face burned in my memory. And he was desperately trying to tell me that he needed to go to the toilet. And I didn't know the Czech word for toilet at the time. And so then he was trying to say WC, but in Czech, it's V for W and S, which does not sound like WC at all. And I mean, just like the sheer like panic on this kid's face, all because I didn't know how like the one word in Czech that's so important or the European version of that word. I mean, the embarrassment that I felt and the sadness I felt for my inability to understand what this student needed. I mean, it goes with what you're saying too.
Absolutely in the same vein.
It's so important. So I'm just so glad that you said that.
Yeah. So on those notes, like what has been one of the most rewarding teaching experiences abroad that you've had? Do you have one of those memories or?
I think the whole experience is its own reward. I think because I have been able to live and experience so many different cultures, the understanding I get a bit more of the world is very rewarding. But I will say I have one story that when I am with the trainees, when I'm training on the course and we talk about music, how to use music in the classroom, I always talk about this reward system that I had for a group in Thailand. So in the second school I taught in Thailand, I taught at a high school and I had 16-year-olds. And these were, as I learned, were the naughty kids. So they didn't always show up to class. They didn't really like to participate or turn in work. And I thought, what can I do? But what does everybody like? Music. I've never talked to a person in the world that didn't like music because there's a genre for everyone. So one of the first weeks, I had them all write down their favorite English song and I collected it from them. So I had a catalog of English songs. And then every Friday, it was music day with a catch. I would give them one assignment during the week. Either it was a homework assignment that everyone had to turn in, or it would be like a class assignment and everyone had to score a certain points or higher. And I would tell them, this is the music assignment. And then that's all I would say about it. They would police each other to make sure they turned it in or that they scored high enough. And then on Friday, I used their catalog of English songs to do English activities. Of course, I loved it. It's music in the classroom, so it's fun for me, but it's also fun for them because it's music they like. But one of the first songs I did was they loved Bruno Mars, beautiful, I can't remember the name, Beautiful Women, You're Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was it in Thailand, the classrooms are big. There was like 40 students in the classroom. So it's a lot to get them all to turn stuff in. And I put the song on and all the boys sitting in the back row. So, the worst of the worst because they're in the back row.
Back row.
And they start up with the drum beat and their fingers go up and they start snapping and they start singing along. I'm getting goosebumps thinking. They start singing along and I just went, what is happening? Here they are, these bad these naughty deemed 16-year-old Thai boys in the back of the classroom singing Beautiful Girls by Bruno Mars, all because they turned in their homework assignment. And it was just so fun. And for me, like having them be excited and giving them that kind of reward for it was just really fun. And it just also reminds me that they're not always naughty. Like they might be deemed naughty. You just have to find what they like and kind of connect with them. And once you find that connection, your students love your lessons. You love going in and making things for them that are fun. And so for me, I always think back to that. And that was, I think, my first year of teaching. Yeah. And I still think back to that, them sitting in the background, singing to me. Yeah.
I love that. That's a wonderful story. So then it has to be asked the other side. What has been the most challenging experience you've had?
I wouldn't say that there was a specific challenge in teaching itself because a lot of people a lot of native English speakers struggle with, I don't remember all the grammar rules. And Trish, you are very familiar with this from when we worked together. But I tell them, you're going to refresh yourself of grammar. Like as long as you can give a reason why instead of, well, it sounds right. Because to language learners, they don't know why it sounds right. So that's something you can learn as you're teaching. But the most difficult experience I had was actually in Myanmar, and it was that first year. And it wasn't about the students themselves, because the students were great, but it was the way that we were living. Again, it was in 2012. And even on Google Maps, it had just kind of been open to when you look at the world map, you can see that Burma is there. There were still places not open for foreigners. Journalists weren't allowed into the country. Like telling this, it sounds really cool that I was there.
You're so brave.
I know. At the time, it was just another day in the life. But we had to live. All the female teachers lived in one house, and all the male teachers lived in another house. And there was things like the benefits were great. Like we always had meals provided for us, school provided meals, and we had like a Burmese family that lived like kind of in the house as well, and they would like cook and clean for us. Which was very nice. But they was like, that was their job that they got paid to do. And so the experience of getting around with no one knows Burmese, no one knows that language. So getting around with really people not knowing that much English, people being surprised that they were in the country, and then curious, how did you get into the country? Like, are you allowed to be here? And then having things like a hot shower would really be lovely sometimes. But you don't always get that in hot Asian countries. And not having air conditioning. And at the time was a political time where it was voting season. And the current administration wanted to make sure they would be elected legally, I guess, again. And so they had government sanctioned blackouts. So different parts of the city would lose electricity at different times. So that means in the heat of Myanmar, no fans. You would wake up and it's your time for the electricity to be off. So not even like regular fans would work. So you're just drenched in sweat. And the schools didn't have electricity. The only places that had electricity were hospitals and hotels. So if it's like in the evening, everybody would go to a hotel just to have a fan. And so that kind of roughness, I'm happy I lived through it, but I would never want to do it again. Yeah. And when I tell the story about the first time being in Myanmar, when I went, we flew in and out of Bangkok. So when I got back to Bangkok, and if you've been in the Bangkok airport, Trish, I don't know if you have, it is beautiful. It is a lovely airport. Yeah. I was sitting in a Subway restaurant in the air conditioning with Wi-Fi. I took a bite of my Subway sandwich and I just like started crying. And my roommate from Myanmar was with me and she was like, I completely understand. It was just all the comforts after 3 months of not having any of this. And the Wi-Fi was so bad. You only had it at school, but it was like dial up so slow. So for 3 months, barely having, connection to the outside world was really hard. Coming from, a lifestyle where you have communication and all these comforts. So that the lifestyle at that time was hard. But guys, I did go back 2 more times. It's not that hard.
I know, like that's the amazing thing. I think, I don't know, like I was listening to one of my other favorite podcasts, the Hidden Brain the other day, and they were talking about like, do people tend to think positively on their memories or negatively, and you kind of just described a pretty like negative in many ways experience, but there's this idea that the confirmation bias out there in the world, the majority of people tend to have the positivity in the memories. And I have that same thing. Like I joke with my family all the time, revisionist history, because I don't remember the times I said something mean to you. Was I mean? I really think we can rewrite our stories to remember the things that impacted us. And most of the times that's a pretty positive moment, where we connect with someone. So as oh my gosh, we could talk to you for hours. I know this.
I know, you guys are so easy to talk to. And there's so much to say on this topic, especially with all of our experiences.
So I think we're going to jump forward just a little bit. And like for someone who's maybe considering joining the TEFL world or the teaching world or signing up for the first time for that first international job abroad, is there like one piece of advice or a recommendation you might like share with them to get them going with that?
I would say 2 pieces of advice. 1, look for a face-to-face course, because if you are joining this international world, it seems very easy I'm just going to pay for something online. Now, all online courses aren't accredited, which means they're not going to be valid everywhere. Also, yes, they are cheaper for a reason, but they also don't include teaching practices usually. An in-person course, such as ours, does include in-person practice, which means that you can apply what you're learning in real time with real students, get feedback, and then you are actually in the classroom before you get a job. Where teachers that come from online courses, they struggle because they know the methodology, but they haven't practiced it. So when they're with a classroom of students, they're like, why aren't my students responding like I expect them to? And, they don't have that kind of flexibility. Also with a face-to-face course, you're automatically in the community. Like if you have a course online, you're probably not connecting with other people. But when you go through the course face to face, you have people going through this with you. You have this built-in support system and you can rely on them during the course and after the course. when you all go off to other horizons, you have people to visit for holidays.
Right.
So it's really nice to have these connections. So I think just if you are looking, look for something that includes a community or realistic practice for your, mental health and emotional health and support system.
We gave that advice specifically when we did our types of schools abroad.
Yeah.
And we said, like, all TEFL courses are not created equal.
Yes.
Definitely look for the 120 hours, in-person practice.
Yeah.
TEFL Worldwide, shout out.
Yes.
It was a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also because, and search for what they have as well. What support do they provide after the course as well? Do you graduate and then you're done?
Yeah.
Or can you reach out to them afterwards? What connections do they have? That's really important. And then the second thing I would say is, please do your research. Like if you're going to a foreign country, what are some of their cultural differences? What are some phrases, as we mentioned previously? What are things to be, informed about? The world is so connected. You can easily find someone who has been through the course probably, or has been in that country. What is their firsthand experience? Find out if it's something that would suit you. So, and don't just ask one person.
Yeah.
Explore different, job boards, Reddit or so on, but take also everything with a grain of salt. If you know the person, are they a positive person or do they look at the negatives of things?
Yeah.
So really do some research, ask around, check in with people, and never be afraid to ask for help. Do you know someone that could help me with this? Most people I know in this community, if not everyone, loves to help each other because we love being in this community and we want other people to experience it. And we want to help and we want to get people involved. So
I think this is a nice little plug-in as well that we are creating country guides that have these unique pieces of information for all of the countries. Right now we're focusing on Europe, but we'll have those for all of the countries in the world at some point in the future.
And that's the whole point of this platform. Like, I know this is Connected Conversations, the podcast part, but we're trying to, we're building a website around it, like connectedglobal.org. And in the future, we envision chat groups for each country, where you're just connecting people and then when
going to those as well. What do you guys have questions about?
Yeah,
Where are we going next? Yeah.
We see people who are resident experts, welcoming new people in because there is just a plethora of amazing people out there in this world that are, it's so fun to get to know their stories. And that's what it's all about.
So as we're wrapping up here, April, we are asking the same question of all of our interviewees. And we would like to know, what has teaching abroad taught you about yourself?
It has taught me that the first step is the hardest, but after that, it's going to work out. It is not as hard as it seems. Even though I have lived in different countries, every time I go to a new country, I always think, oh, what if it doesn't work out? The what ifs don't happen. Don't focus on the what ifs. Take that first step, get out there. And it has taught me that I can make it work anywhere. Going through a visa process on my own in foreign languages, doing visa runs in Asian communities. If you have dietary restrictions, which now I do, I am pescatarian. So in a very meat heavy country, finding places to eat, finding your own community of like-minded people. I can do all this anywhere because I have, and I know that if I go someplace else, I can do it there as well. Just makes me feel unstoppable, guys.
Yeah, I love that. And you and I, we've been passing shoulders for 8 years in Prague. I've been here 20 total. And for 8 years, and I didn't meet you till last year, we've known each other just over a year. And it's crazy to think sometimes you're in the same place as other amazing people. And it just, it is. And the more you do this, the faster you go through the stages of culture shock, the faster, the more just awareness of what it takes to be a global citizen. It's there.
Yeah.
So that's great advice. That's great.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, April, for letting us interview you. It was lovely to hear your story.
Sure. We have so many more questions. We'll be back with you, Tassie.
Yes, ask away. I am so happy that I got to be on this. Thank you so much for reaching out. I had a lovely time with you ladies. So thank you. Thank you for all the questions. And I hope this helps anybody out there who is looking to move abroad and join our lifetime of global life network of global citizens and international teaching.
It will definitely help people. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We'd like to thank April once again for joining us and sharing her amazing journey. Her honesty and insight are exactly what this series is all about.
That's right. And for our listeners, we hope that April's story gives you a clearer picture of what the TEFL world and what teaching abroad can look like in different ways. There are a lot of ups and downs, as you heard, but there are so many unexpected lessons along the way.
Definitely. And if you're ready to take the leap yourself, check out our teaching abroad guides, our contract checklists, our country resources, and tons of other goodies over on our platform at connectedglobal.org.
That's right. And remember, at connectedglobal.org, you can always book a consultation with us if you need to discuss some of those choices you've got, whether you're weighing TEFL versus international school jobs, trying to decode a contract you might have been presented, or just trying to figure out your next step in this life abroad.
And if you enjoyed this conversation, share it with a friend, drop a friendly comment, and subscribe so you don't miss more insider voices like April's.
That's right. So until next time, may your contracts be clear,
and your school Wi-Fi be strong,
and your conversations be open, diverse,
and international. I messed up. I'm sorry. I didn't. I thought you were going to read this long one.
Can we have less of that?
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
Take 2.
Oh, hold on. I just forgot about the speed. Maybe, something. Ooh, I like if we all have
Halloween.
We can all have our cup.
I said I'd have my coffee, and he's my favorite character. So
good.
Okay.
So good.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, should we jump into it?
Let's do it. Okay. We got this. All right.
Okay, hold on. Don't start yet. I think I've actually lost the document now. Sorry, guys. Hold on.